The Jesse Blake Sports Report with Jesse Blake.
Lane Hutson won the Calder Trophy tonight. I'm sorry to Matvei Michkov. I'm sorry to Dustin Wolf. And I'm sorry to Macklin Celebrini, whose jersey I got up behind me because I just came from San Jose and got a beautiful Macklin Celebrini jersey. I'm sorry to those three individuals because we had a great race this year. And now that we are at the end of the season, all the teams in the league got like less than 10 games left. The picture is clear. Lane Hutson is our Calder Trophy winner this year. And this is a big deal because of how tight the race was all season long. It looked like it was Michkov's for a while. Then Celebrini, when he got healthy and he actually played games, it looked like it was his. And then Dustin Wolf looked like he stole it when the Calgary Flames got into the playoffs, and now they've fallen back, and we'll talk about that in a second. And now that we have the full picture of the season with a little bit to go here, it's all but sealed. It's done. Hand him the trophy. Lane Hutson, congratulations on the Calder Trophy this year. You look like you are going to be a generational defenseman. He clinched the Calder Trophy in a huge win by the Montreal Canadiens tonight against the Florida Panthers. First of all, thank you from all Leafs fans to the Habs. Thank you for knocking off the Florida Panthers. You didn't do it in regulation, so the Florida Panthers still got a point, but thank you for taking that point off the board from them so they are not closer to capturing the Atlantic Division crown that the Leafs are chasing. So thank you, first and foremost. Secondly, let's skip ahead in this game to 8.4 seconds left when Nick Suzuki ties the game, sends it to overtime. It's 2-1 for the Panthers. Like I said, 8.4 seconds left. End of the game, they get this magical goal to send it to OT. And on that goal, Lane Hutson had an assist. He was the one who got the puck. He got a pass from behind the net, and it came to him, and he enters the zone, and he just throws the puck kind of on net in a rebound area, and the rebound bounces right to Nick Suzuki. Fabulous play, knowing that there's so little time left on the clock that he has to just chuck it at the net, try and do something, try and get something going, and it led to a goal. And this only shows like a small smidget of the playmaking that Lane Hutson has been doing all year long. And then eventually Nick Suzuki wins the game in overtime, where Lane Hutson also gets an assist. His play on that isn't like spectacular, nothing to scream right home about, but he did get an assist on the 3-on-3 OT game-winning goal by Nick Suzuki, who, by the way, is having one of the most underrated seasons by any forward in the National Hockey League so far this year. I guess the season's almost over. So this year, incomplete. He's having one of the most underrated seasons. Not a lot of people are talking about how impressive Nick Suzuki has been this year, but we are here to talk about Lane Hutson. So with his 3 assists tonight, which makes 3 assists in back-to-back games against the Florida Panthers, with that 3rd assist tonight, Lane Hutson enters historic company. This is from ESPN. Lane Hutson is the first rookie defenseman in NHL history with 60 points in a season since 91-92. He's the first to reach this mark since Nick Lidstrom. He's the 10th rookie defenseman in NHL history with 60 points in a season. The Habitant on Twitter wrote, points through their first 76 career NHL games. Lane Hutson had 64, Cale Makar had 63, and Quinn Hughes had 60. Superstar, they write at the end of their tweet. NHL PR tweeted this. Lane Hutson of the Montreal Canadiens has been named NHL's Rookie of the Month for March. He is the first defenseman to earn the honor multiple times in the same season since Nick Lidstrom in 91-92. And then we have Grant McCagg, who writes, congratulations to Lane Hutson, the most assists by any Habs rookie in the club's storied history, up to 57 and climbing. More than Lafleur, more than Beliveau, more than Richard, now more than Chelios. Unbelievable. And lastly, we'll end with this tweet from Grav, who writes, since the start of March, no defenseman in the entire NHL has more points than Lane Hutson, tied with Cale Makar with 18 points in 15 games. And why all of this is so impressive in comparison to his other 3 counterparts, Wolf, Michkov, and Macklin Celebrini, is because he is doing it for a playoff team. There's a big argument to make that Lane Hutson has been the most important Montreal Canadien for this entire season. And Montreal, who I didn't have in the playoffs this year, I thought they'd take a step in their rebuild process and get better this season, but I didn't think they'd be a playoff team. They're currently in a playoff spot. They sit in the second wildcard seed. They have 79 points. They are 2 ahead of Columbus, who do have a game in hand, but Montreal does own the tiebreak at the moment. So 79 points for Montreal, 77 for Columbus, 77 for New York, who has played 74 games. And as mentioned, Montreal Canadiens also played 74 games. So they're currently in a playoff spot, 2 points up, and Lane Hutson is one of the most, if not the most important piece of the team of the Canadiens this season. You can't say that about Macklin Celebrini in terms of them being contenders. You can't say that about Michkov and where the Flyers are currently in the standings. They're 8th in the Eastern Conference. And you can't say that about Dustin Wolf at the moment, whose team, the Calgary Flames, are currently out of a playoff spot. And because of how hot the Blues have been, the Blues have jumped all these teams and hopped up to the first wildcard seed. In Minnesota has dropped back to the second wildcard seed with 88 points. And Calgary sits 6 points out of the playoffs as I'm recording this right now with 82 points. And Dustin Wolf, if we want to highlight him in particular right now, his last few games, this little stretch in March, has not been the greatest for Dustin Wolf. If we look at his game log here, in his last 7 games played, he only has 1 game where his save percentage is above a 900. And in that game, back on March 12th against Vancouver, where they lost in a shootout, it was only a 903. Not the greatest showing for the most important part of the season for Dustin Wolf. And Lane Hutson, on the other end, is peaking. He is peaking in the most important games. These games against Florida, 6 points, back-to-back games, 3 assists in both of them. He is at his highest right now when the team needs it the most. And I feel like that matters. And Celebrini and Michkov on the other end are just playing for nothing. Michkov has looked absolutely spectacular since John Tortorella has left the team. He's been scoring at will and at a crazy pace. And I believe he leads all rookies in 5-on-5 goals and even strength goals. And he's right there in points with Lane Hutson. Lane Hutson's got 59, Michkov's got 58, but Lane Hutson as a defenseman still has more points than Michkov. The numbers for Michkov just aren't impressive enough to surpass what Lane Hutson has done. And if Michkov's numbers aren't impressive enough, we certainly can't bend Celebrini's numbers to be more impressive than Lane Hutson's, and what those guys are doing as forwards and what Lane Hutson is doing as a defenseman. And Celebrini, to his credit, like early on this season, I thought we all thought that Celebrini was the most complete player, the most NHL-ready player. But as the season has gone along, we've been seeing what Lane Hutson has been doing as a rookie, as this kid on this team that's contending, and he's as complete as Celebrini is. So that argument there for our San Jose friend isn't holding up at the end of this season. And it's Lane Hutson running out in front of all of them. And lastly, I want to shout out Eric Engels for this wonderful tweet, because a lot of people have been getting on Lane Hutson for his -9 rating on the season at the time of this tweet. Eric Engels wrote this on Twitter. At 5-on-5, he's actually +6. That's Lane Hutson. 64 goals for, 58 goals against. At 3-on-3, he's surprisingly -3. 1 goal for, 4 goals against. The main reason he's a minus this season, he's been on the ice for all 13 empty net goals the Habs have allowed. On the ice for 1 goal for, so there's -12. This is just one way to add context to plus minus. As a general rule, the stat can be fairly misrepresentative. It's not totally useless, but its face value shouldn't ever be used to draw firm conclusions about a player's offensive or defensive ability. When you break it down like that, Lane Hutson's plus minus should have nothing to do with the argument for whether he should get the Calder Trophy or not. The dude has been on the ice for every empty net goal that's scored against the Habs, which means he's on the ice for the most crucial parts of the Habs season. And to the Habs' credit, they've been in a lot of games, so they've had to pull the goalie a lot because they're in it. You know, it's close. They're not getting blown out. So the plus minus thing, throw that out the window. We can't talk about that with Lane Hutson. His numbers hold up against all the 3 other candidates. His numbers hold up against history, which is one of the coolest things here. He is putting himself in the most elite of elite company with the assist numbers he is putting up this season, and the Habs are relying on him heavily this year, and he is proving that he is up to the task. Give him the trophy. It's over, ladies and gentlemen. It's over. Give him the trophy. Lane Hutson deserves the Calder this year. That is it for me right now. Thank you for being here. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you chose to be listening or watching right now, and I appreciate you for that. Don't forget to hit subscribe if you're watching on the Jesse Blake Sports Report YouTube channel. This is also available on audio wherever you get your podcasts. That's it. Good night from Toronto.
That is how it's done.
The Jesse Blake Sports Report with Jesse Blake.
Jesse Blake, the guy that likes to hear his name twice in one sentence. Sure, I know him. No, he doesn't have an ego at all.